Most people think they're struggling with time, but they're really struggling with direction. We all get the same 24 hours. What separates the overwhelmed from the unstoppable isn't more time. It's better choices. Time doesn't need to be managed. You do. And the moment you learn how to take ownership of your time, you stop surviving your days and start leading them. Let's talk about how to develop time management skills, not just to get more done, but to become more of who you're meant to be. Time is not something we manage. Time is something we live. Every hour we spend, every minute we lose, every second we waste. It's not just time slipping by. It's pieces of our life we're trading away. When we talk about, often fall into the trap of techniques, hacks, and calendars. Until we understand why our time matters, none of the tactics will work. You can't organize something you don't truly value. That's where most people go wrong. They want better schedules, but they haven't built better intentions. The way we view time shapes everything we do. If you see time as a burden, you'll always feel rushed. If you see it as a currency, you'll invest it wisely. But if you see it as life in motion, you'll begin to treat it with the reverence it deserves. You'll stop thinking about how much time something takes and start asking yourself if it's worth the life it costs. Because that's what time is, a measure of life. Why do we do what we do? Why do we wake up early or stay up late? Why do we push ourselves to meet deadlines, attend meetings, chase goals? Without clarity on that why, our time becomes reactive instead of intentional. We're pulled into other people's urgencies instead of stepping in our own purpose. We confuse activity with progress, but business is not a badge of honor. It's often a mask for aimlessness. The truth is, time management starts with meaning. If something matters to you deeply, you'll find time for it. You won't need reminders, alarms, or to-do lists. You'll make space for it, not out of pressure, but out of passion. That's why people can have the same schedule, but completely different results. One is moving with intention, the other is drifting with distraction. The difference is their why. Imagine someone who's just been told they have 6 months to live. Suddenly, every second becomes sacred. The coffee they drink, the walk they take, the people they call, everything is filtered through a lens of meaning. That person doesn't manage time, they honor it, they protect it, they guard it like treasure. The challenge is not to wait until we're forced into urgency. The challenge is to with that level of clarity today. Time is also emotional. We don't just remember what we did with our time, we remember how it felt. That's why meaningful work always feels faster. An hour lost in something you love feels like a blink, but an hour spent in meetings but don't care about can feel like a prison. That contrast tells us something powerful. Managing time isn't just about controlling the clock. It's about aligning your life with what fulfills you. People often say they don't have time, but that's rarely true. They don't have a compelling reason to make time. We all make time for what matters. If you want to develop time management skills, don't start by downloading an app. Start by asking yourself what kind of life you want to live. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Who do you want to become? Because when the why is clear, the how becomes easier. You'll say no more confidently. You'll schedule more purposefully. You'll wake up with energy and go to bed with peace. That kind of time management isn't about being efficient. It's about being fully alive. We live in a world that confuses more with better. More apps, more alerts, more meetings, more goals. We cram our calendars full hoping it will make us feel productive, valuable, important, but all it really does is distract us. The truth is, the problem isn't a lack of time, it's a lack of clarity. Time doesn't get lost in the clock. It gets buried under the clutter. And until we learn how to clear the noise, we'll never manage time, we'll just chase it. Clarity is power. When you know what matters, decisions become easier. Distractions lose their grip. No longer need to be everywhere or say yes to everything. Clarity cuts through the chaos. It gives you permission to focus and, more importantly, permission to let go. Because time management isn't just about what you do. It's about what you no longer allow into your life. The modern world celebrates multitasking like it's a skill, but it's actually a myth. Our brains weren't built to focus on a dozen things at once. When you divide your attention, you dilute your presence. And presence is the heartbeat of productivity. You don't more time in your day. You need more focus in your moments. But you can't focus when your priorities are a mess. And they will be until you define what truly matters to you. This is where values come in. Time management is not just about efficiency, it's about alignment. Are you spending your time on things that reflect your values? Are you investing your energy into people and projects that build the life you actually want? Or are you running on autopilot, doing things because everyone else is doing them or because you're afraid of missing out? Clarity gives you the courage of intentionally rather than reactively. Think about how easy it is to be busy and still feel empty. That's what happens when our time gets hijacked by tasks that have no connection to who we are or what we care about. We check boxes but don't feel fulfilled. We rush through our days only to collapse at night, wondering if any of it really mattered. That's not time management, that's time erosion. And it begins the moment we stop asking ourselves what we're doing it all for. When you get clear on what truly matters, you can start building boundaries that protect your focus. You can filter your decisions through a lens of purpose. You'll realize you don't need to respond to every message right away. You don't need to attend every meeting. It would be everything for everyone. You just need to be clear with yourself, because clarity will just help you say yes. It helps you say no with confidence. Clarity also gives you direction. It's what turns your day into a mission, not just a series or morning purpose, and it gives your evening satisfaction. Without clarity, time becomes a burden. With clarity, time becomes a tool. You begin to see your calendar not as a list of demands, but as a reflection of your deepest priorities. And that shift is powerful. There's a reason the most productive people often have the simplest routines. They've stopped trying to do everything and instead chosen to do the right things. That clarity frees up not just their schedule, but their mind. They're not weighed down by indecision or overwhelmed by options. They're focused, intentional, present. And that presence is what allows them to create, to make an impact. Getting clear doesn't mean your life will be perfectly organized. It means you'll be guided by purpose rather than pressure. You'll stop wasting time on things that don't matter. And you'll start building a life that does. There's a reason why some people seem to move through life with incredible clarity and energy, while others constantly feel scattered, overwhelmed, and reactive. It's not just about time management strategies, it's about purpose. When you have a strong sense of purpose, your priorities start to reveal themselves. You need to guess what's important. You feel it. Purpose simplifies everything. It removes the noise and annoys your attention to what truly deserves your energy. Without purpose, life becomes a to-do list filled with tasks that might look urgent, but lack any real meaning. We rush to complete them, thinking we're being productive, but we're really just staying busy. Business is not a sign of purpose. It's often a symptom of confusion. Purpose is what gives your actions weight. It gives your schedule depth. When you live with purpose, your priorities stop being accidental and start being intentional. People often say they want to be more productive, but the real question is, productive toward what activity without purpose is just motion and without meaning? It's like rowing harder in the wrong direction. You might cover more distance, but you're still headed somewhere you don't actually want to be. That's the trap many fall into. They wake up every day and hit the ground running, but never pause to ask if they're running in the right direction. Purpose shifts that. It anchors you. It grounds your decisions. When you know why you're doing something, it becomes easier to know when to say yes, and more importantly, when to say no. Without purpose, everything looks like an opportunity. With purpose, only a few things truly are. You start to prioritize not based on what's popular or convenient, but based on what moves you closer to your mission. Think of purpose as your internal compass. It doesn't make life easier, but it makes it clearer. There will still be tough calls. There will still be distractions. But with purpose, you have a filter, a lens through which every task, every commitment, every demand is measured. Does this align with who I want to be? Does this move me closer to what I care about? If not, it doesn't belong on your calendar. The most effective time managers are not the ones who cram the most into a day. They are the ones who align their days with what matters most. They understand that a meaningful hour is more powerful than a busy day. They don't chase balance, they chase alignment. Because when your time reflects your purpose, you don't burn out, you burn bright. Purpose also sustains motivation. There will be days when the work feels hard, when the results feel far away, when nothing seems to be moving fast enough. On those days, tactics and techniques won't keep you going. Only purpose will. Purpose turns routines into rituals. It transforms repetition into mastery. It reminds you that even the smallest task has meaning when it's tied to something greater than itself. It's not about having everything figured out. You don't need a perfect 5-year plan, but you do need to ask yourself, what matters to me? What kind of impact do I want to make? Who do I want to become? Those questions aren't fluffy. They're foundational. They're the difference between reacting to life and leading it, between spending time and investing it. When your priorities are powered by purpose, your schedule becomes more than a list. It becomes a reflection of your values. You start to feel more in control, not because you're managing time perfectly, but because you're managing it meaningfully. You start to experience time not as a source of stress, but as a gift you're using wisely. Time is not a thing you can hold. You can't stretch it. You can't slow it down. You can't speed it up. Every single one of us, regardless of age or background, gets the exact same 24 hours in a day. The difference is never the time, it's the choices we make with it. That's why the real conversation isn't about time management, it's about choice management. Because every minute of your life is a vote for the kind of life you want to live. This is a hard truth, but an important one you are always choosing. Whether you realize it or not, whether consciously or passively, every decision you make, how you start your morning, what you say yes to what you procrastinate is a choice, and those choices stack up, they compound. Over time, they shape your reality. It's not the clock that determines your destiny, it's your calendar, and your calendar is a mirror of your decisions. So when people say they don't have time, what they're really saying is that's not a priority. Because if something truly matters to you, you find a way, you shift things. You say no to something else. Time isn't found, it's allocated. Every hour you spend doing one thing is an hour you're not spending on something else. And that's why managing time is really about managing trade-offs. You're always saying no to something, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you saying no to the right things? High performers don't have more time. They have more discipline around how they use it. They understand that choices are the currency of success. They don't leave their schedule to chance. They don't let other people's urgency override their own clarity. They build systems that protect their focus. They automate where possible. They delegate when importantly, they reserve time for what builds them. This is where personal responsibility comes in. It's easy to blame circumstances. It's tempting to say, I'm just too busy, or things are out of my control right now. But you are not a victim of your schedule. You are its architect. Every yes you give is a blueprint you lay. And if your days feel chaotic, if your time feels stolen, it's not because the world is unfair. It's because you haven't been guarding your choices with intention. It starts small, choosing to get up 30 minutes earlier to plan your day, choosing to block off time for deep work instead of checking emails every 5 minutes, choosing to spend Sunday night mapping out your week instead of letting Monday hit you like a storm. These aren't just habits. They're declarations. They say, I'm in charge of my time. And once you claim that mindset, everything begins to shift. But claiming that control also means accepting discomfort. Sometimes it means disappointing others. It means saying no to meetings that don't serve your goals. It means declining invitations, delaying gratification, walking away from what's easy in favor of what's essential. And that's hard, because we all want to be liked. We all want availability. Without boundaries is a fast track to burnout. You cannot give your best to the world if you're always giving your time away to things that drain you. There's also the trap of urgency. So many of us live in a state of constant reaction. We respond to every notification, every text, every request as if it's life or death. But urgency doesn't equal importance. The most important things in your life, your health, your relationships, your growth, rarely come with a deadline. That's why they're so easy to postpone. But over time, those delays come at a cost. And eventually, you wake up realizing you've been living by everyone else's agenda but your own. It's not the enemy. Time is neutral. It's our choices that give it meaning or take it away. The biggest threat to your goals isn't laziness. It isn't lack of ambition or opportunity. It's distraction, and not the loud, obvious kind. It's the small, silent distractions, the ones that feel harmless, that pretend to be productive, the ones we convince ourselves we'll only give 5 minutes to. But 5 minutes becomes 20. 20 becomes an hour. And before we know it, another day has passed without progress. We live in a world that thrives on our attention. Every app, every advertisement, every notification is designed to pull your focus. You're not weak for getting distracted. You're human. But if you don't consciously choose what to pay attention to, the world will choose for you. And the world doesn't prioritize your potential. It prioritizes your clicks. That's why mastering time isn't just about organization. It's about protection, protecting your mind from the noise that keeps you from hearing your own voice. Distraction is seductive because it offers quick reward. A scroll through social media gives you validation. A binge watch gives you escape. An unnecessary meeting gives you the illusion of productivity. But in the long run, all of it steals the one resource you can't get back, your time. And it doesn't just steal hours. It steals momentum. It fragments your focus. It leaves you starting over again and again, never quite building the traction you need to grow. What most people don't realize is that distraction isn't just about what pulls you away. It's also about what you invite in. It's the clutter on your desk. The 5 tabs you keep open just in case. The phone you place face up while trying to write. These are not small things. They are silent saboteurs. They create micro moments of interruption that break your flow, and once your attention is fractured, it takes time to repair it. Focus is not something you find. It's something you fight for. And the battleground is your environment. And the way you design your space determines how easy it is to stay present. The more friction you create between yourself and your distractions, the more freedom you create for deep, uninterrupted work. That means turning your phone off instead of silencing it. That might mean setting clear digital boundaries, like checking email only twice a day. That might mean a shut-down ritual at night to mentally detach from about perfection. This isn't about the noise, and I don't need to live in a monastery to manage your time well, but you do need to become ruthless about what you allow into your day. Every yes is a no to something else. If you're always available, you're never fully present. If you say yes to every request, every call, every update, you leave room for the work that truly matters. The best leaders, the best performers all share one thing in common. They protect their focus like it's sacred, because it is. When you start treating distraction like the enemy of your goals, you begin to see the world fantasizing multitasking. You stop confusing movement with progress. You stop tolerating interruptions as harmless. Instead, you start prioritizing clarity. You start designing your day with intention. You create windows for deep work and protect them with boundaries. You build habits that support and not addiction. Most people never potential not reach theirs, they don't have it. But because they're constantly distracted from it. The greatest version of yourself isn't waiting in another year. It's hidden underneath the layers of distraction you've accepted as normal. Strip those away, and what's left is focused clarity and a mind capable of far more than you've allowed it to express. Distractions don't just cost time, they cost you dream. Success doesn't start in the morning. It starts the night before. The people who most from their days are not reacting to their morning, they're executing they've already planned and created. They don't wake up asking what needs to be done. They already know. They're not spending their mental energy deciding what matters. They've already decided. Because when your day begins without a plan, it belongs to everyone else, but when it begins with intention, it belongs to you. Most people treat time like it's an open field, free to wander, no direction, no boundaries, but your day needs a map. Without one, you get lost in distractions. You get pulled into other people's priorities. You confuse business with effectiveness. You end the day exhausted, but unsure of what actually accomplished. But when you plan your day before it starts, you're not guessing anymore. You're leading. You're operating with clarity. And that's where time starts to work for you. Planning isn't about being rigid, it's about being prepared. It's not about scripting every minute. It's about setting anchors. When you plan ahead, you tell your brain what matters most. You reduce decision fatigue, you create structure for your focus to live inside. You're not just reacting to noise, you're choosing what to hear. And in a world that's constantly demanding your attention, that's one of the most powerful choices you can make. About athletes prepare. They don't show up on game day and ask, what should I work on today? They've visualized it. They've mapped it. They've created a strategy to maximize their effort. That same mindset applies to everyday life. If you want to perform at a high level, you need a high level of preparation. Planning your day is that preparation. It's your way of stepping into the day already ahead. One of the simplest and most effective practices is taking 10 to 15 minutes at the end of each day to plan the next. Review what you accomplished. Reflect on what didn't get done. Clarify what tomorrow's top priorities are, block time for them, and then try a to-do list. Design your day around what matters. Schedule focus blocks for your most important work. Reserve time for thinking, not just doing. Build in breaks. Be to deliberate. You can't control everything that happens in a day, but you control how prepared you are to face it. Emergencies will happen. Plan Cs will shift. But when you've planned ahead, you're far more resilient. You're not scrambling. You're adjusting. You've already built a foundation. That's what separates leaders from followers. Leaders prepare to pivot. Followers get lost in the chaos. Planning your day also forces you to confront your priorities. You ask, what really matters? Because if everything is important, nothing is. The act of planning is the act of filtering. It's how you separate noise from signal. It's how you make sure your time is aligned with your values, not just your tasks. Without that alignment, even your busiest days will feel hollow. But when your time reflects your purpose, your days become meaningful, even when they're difficult. Planning ahead is also an act of self-respect. It says, my time is worth protecting. It says, I value my energy enough to direct it with intention. It's a signal to yourself and others that you're not here to drift, you're here to drive. And that mindset builds momentum. Because when you start seeing progress every day, even in small ways, your confidence grows. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start making progress with what you have. Most people don't fail because they don't have enough time. They fail because they don't use the time they have wisely. And wise use of time starts with ownership. It starts with discipline. It starts with the simple but powerful choice to plan your day before they begins. A goal without a timeline is just a wish. And a wish without structure is nothing more than a daydream. That's why so many talented, capable people fall short of their goals. Not because they don't want it badly enough, but because they haven't built a relationship between their goals and their time. Time is nothing you manage, it's something you allocate. And how you allocate it will either bring your vision to life or slowly drain it of all its possibility. The people who accomplish big things don't rely on motivation. They rely on structure. They know that if something matters, it needs to live in their calendar, not as a hope, not as a maybe, not as a pretend non-negotiable block of time. They treat their priorities like appointments with their future because they understand that if you don't make time for your goals, your schedule will be filled with other people's. Breaking your goals into time blocks is one of the most powerful ways to turn intention into execution. It's how you bring clarity to your ambition. When you say you want to write a book, build a business, learn a new skill, what you're really saying is want to invest your life energy into something meaningful. But unless that desire translates to a scheduled, consistent rhythm, it gets lost in the noise of daily life. Time blocking is how you give your goals the space they need to grow. Think of your week like a blank canvas. Now imagine dividing that canvas into dedicated spaces, each one designed to serve a purpose. One for deep work, one for learning, for planning, one for rest. When you create these blocks, you're not just organizing your week, you're designing your future. You're giving your goals a home. You're training your mind to focus, your energy to align, and your discipline to strengthen. One of the biggest lies we'll ourselves is, I'll get to it when I have time. The truth is, you'll never have time unless you make time. And making time means blocking it out. That means 2 hours on Monday mornings for creative work, or an hour every evening for personal development, or one full day each week where you do nothing but focus on your most important goal. These blocks become sacred, they become rituals, and over time, they become the foundation of your success. But this isn't just about productivity. This is about commitment. Time blocking forces you the gap between what you say matters and how you actually spend your time. It's uncomfortable. It reveals the excuses. But it also reveals the opportunity. It gives you a way to reclaim control. Because you're not trying to squeeze your goals into the leftover space. You're putting them at the center of your life. Of course, life is unpredictable. Plans change. Emergencies happen. But that's not a reason to avoid time blocking. That's the reason to embrace it. Because when your time has structure, you can adjust without losing direction. You're not starting from scratch every day. You're operating from a place of clarity. Even when your schedule shifts, you know what matters. You know where to return. What you'll find is that the act of protecting blocks of time for your goals changes the way they stop feeling distant. They start becoming part of your daily reality. And as that happens, your confidence grows. Your identity shifts. You stop being someone who talks about doing big things. You become someone who shows up for them, consistently, intentionally, powerfully. Every goal has a cost, and that cost is, the only question is whether you're willing to pay that cost in advance with discipline or later with regret. Success is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things consistently and adjusting when necessary. Yet most people get derailed not by failure, but by their emotional reaction to it. They get discouraged when results don't come fast. They get overwhelmed when plans go off track. They take one missed day as proof they're not disciplined. And in that moment, they make emotional decisions instead of disciplined ones. That's when momentum dies. That's when goals fade. But the ones who succeed, they treat progress like a process. They retrack it and they adjust, not based on how they feel, but based on what the data tells them. Tracking progress is not about judgment. It's about awareness. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about learning from your patterns. When you measure your actions, how you task spend you complete, how often you show up for your truths, you begin to see the goals. You see where you're consistent and where you're slipping. You see what's working and what's not. And most importantly, you create the space to respond intentionally instead of emotionally. We live in a culture that celebrates spontaneity and instant results, but growth doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in structure. If you want to take control of your time, you need a system for reflection, weekly reviews, daily check-ins, monthly audits. These moments of pause allow you to look at your effort with clarity. They help you disconnect from the noise of urgency and reconnect with the truth of your discipline. When you track your progress, patterns emerge. Maybe you realize that you're most productive in the early hours, but you've been scheduling deep work in the afternoon. Or you notice that every time you skip your morning routine, the rest of your data spirals. These aren't just observations, they're insights. And insights create leverage. They allow you to make changes that are specific, strategic, and rooted in evidence. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about consistency. And consistency is not about never failing, it's about returning quickly. That's where emotional discipline matters most. Anyone can stick to a routine when they're motivated, but can you show up when it's inconvenient? Can you rest when you've slipped? Can you face your own lack of effort without making it personal? That's the difference between those who finish strong and those who give up early. The disciplined don't see failure as a verdict. They see it as feedback. Sometimes tracking your time can be uncomfortable. It forces you to face the truth of where your energy is actually going. Maybe you thought you were spending 3 hours a day on your goals, but the data says it's 30 minutes. Maybe you thought you were taking breaks to recharge, but they've turned into hours of distraction. It's not always easy, but it is always empowering. Because once you know the truth, you can change it. You're no longer stuck in the story. You're in control of the strategy. The key is to adjust with logic, not emotion. Don't abandon your plan because you had a bad week. Don't rewrite your goals because you felt discouraged. Instead, zoom out. Look at the bigger picture. Ask what needs to change. Ask within my control. What's one adjustment I can make to improve next week? These are the questions that keep you grounded. They keep you focused on growth, not just activity. When you build the habit of reviewing your time, tracking your actions, and making small, steady adjustments, you create a system of accountability that no motivation can replace. You're no longer waiting to feel ready. You're building a feedback loop that sharpens your awareness, refines your actions, and aligns your time with your goals. You become your own coach. You measured intentional and